Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon all of you. Welcome back to the proof that Islam is the truth. And we've been talking about some of the amazing miracles of the Quran, the scientific miracles, those facts that can be found in the Quran that leave us awestruck. How could this information be in a book 1,400 years old? And we were looking at those verses in the Quran concerning the development of the human fetus in the womb. And we also were reading a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, when the Prophet Muhammad mentioned that when 42 nights have passed over the conceptus, Allah sends an angel to it who shapes it, makes its ears and eyes and skin and flesh and bones. And then he says, "Oh Lord, is it a male or a female?" And your Lord decides what he wishes and an angel records it. So it is at the 42nd day or just after the 40th day that it only then becomes identifiable. And this is a fact. This is a scientific fact. And it's very interesting. It's true also that the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, mentioned that there are some things that the knowledge of it is only known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the things the Prophet mentioned is what is the sex of the child in the womb. As one of the Muslim scholars pointed out, is that this is only up until the 40th day. Because after the 40th day, according to this authentic hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, the angels know. The angel who is in the womb, shaping the conceptus, shaping the embryo, asks, is it a male or a female? And so from that time, of course, the angel knows. And if the angel knows, as the scholar pointed out, anyone can know. So this is also a truly amazing statement of scientific accuracy. And this is information that in reality we have only begun to discover recently. We also find that the hadith mentions the correct time for the recognizable growth of the features described, and the sex of the fetus can only definitely be determined after 42 days. Now, this piece of information was only known after the invention of powerful microscopes, only decades ago. Now, I've only mentioned this subject of the developing human being in the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad briefly. There is, of course, a vast amount of literature available if you would like to study this subject more, and it's very easily available on the internet. And indeed, Dr. Zakir Naik has produced a very nice book called Modern Science in the Light of the Quran and Sunnah. So you can get hold of that from the Islamic Research Foundation, insha'Allah, if you want to explore that area more. But what I thought I would do is mention a quote from Keith Moore, who is the professor and chairman of the Department of Anatomy from the University of Toronto in Canada. And Keith Moore is one of the acknowledged experts in the field of the developing human being in its embryonic form. And his book, The Developing Human, is and has been for many years a standard textbook in universities and colleges all over the world. It's been translated into numerous different languages, and he was shown some of the statements in the Quran and the hadith or sayings of the Prophet Muhammad concerning the development of the human embryo. And having studied them, he came to a conclusion. And this is what he said. Until the 19th century, nothing was known about the classification of the stages of human development. A system of staging human embryos was developed around the end of the 19th century based upon alphabetical symbols. And during the 20th century, numerals were used to describe 23 stages of embryonic development. This system of numbering the stages is not easy to follow, and a better system would be based on the morphological changes In recent years, the study of the Quran has revealed another basis for the classification of the stages of developing embryo, which is based on easily understood actions and changes in shape. It utilizes terms that were used and sent by God to Prophet Muhammad by the angel Gabriel and recorded in the Quran. And he goes on to say, it is clear to me that these statements must have come to Muhammad from God, because almost all of this knowledge was not discovered until many centuries later. This proves to me that Muhammad must have been a messenger of God or Allah. Dear viewers, you need to think about this. Here is one of the experts, perhaps the expert in the field, examining the information that is in the Quran and that has been mentioned on the tongue of the Prophet Muhammad. And he is saying that not only is it impossible for this information to have been known by anyone 1,400 years ago, he also suggests that modern embryology should follow the system of development that has been mentioned in the Quranic verses. In other words, the Quran has described the development of the human embryo so beautifully and so effectively that this should be the basis upon which scientific textbooks founded from now on. This is what Keith Moore is saying. So this is really a truly remarkable statement from a truly remarkable scientist who, by the way, has become a Muslim. How did the Prophet Muhammad develop this information? From where did a man living in the desert 1,400 years ago know? From where did he get the knowledge? This is the question that you have to ask. This is the question that you have to examine. The next thing we want to look at is the water cycle. The water cycle, that is the cycle of water where the sun heats the sea and causes evaporation, and from that evaporation we have clouds forming, and how the winds move those clouds, and from that rain falls. Now, the Quran accurately describes the water cycle and the origin of underground springs. And we're going to be talking about that after the break. So whatever you do, don't go away, because we have some more amazing facts for you in the proof that Islam is the truth.